We have to talk about it. The GLP-1s, which the last data I saw, 6% of all adults are on a GLP-1. That's a lot of people. That's, it's 18 million people, right? Where's your stance? Yeah, and I don't want to talk about, true diabetics, because it can help them. It definitely can help them, at least in the short term, if it makes some lifestyle changes. But there's not the 18 million people on them are not all diabetics, and we know that. But I earlier said better living through chemistry. What's your experience? What's your stance? And where do you see that this going within our country? These GLP-1s and the usage of them.
So, you know, um, initially, this was approved clinically for type 2 diabetes. Today, it's clinically approved for obesity,
Hmm.
right? Adolescent obesity and also pediatric obesity. Now, my stance on it is the medication works great if it's done properly under the right medical supervision. And you're being monitored throughout the process because there's certain things that can happen as you lose the weight that you don't want to happen, right? That's going to work completely against you. And I'll give you an example of it. When you're losing weight, what kind of weight are you losing? Are you losing muscle weight or are you losing actual fat? This is the importance of doing some of the diagnostics I talked about earlier, where you do a body composition analysis as a baseline, and then you're trending your results throughout your weight loss journey on a DEXA scan or an M-body machine, where you actually see what kind of weight you're losing. Because if you're losing lean mass, that's the worst thing you could have
Sure.
for longevity purposes, right?
Yeah.
You need to have muscle. That's what helps you live a healthier and longer life. The GLP-1 drugs are great if they're utilized properly, making sure you're doing the blood work, making sure you're doing the body composition analysis. Now, you should never utilize this drug as a crutch, right? It's a good kickstart to your weight loss journey, but you still have to make the lifestyle changes. The reason why most people are obese is because their lifestyle is off. They're drinking too much. They're exposing themselves to toxins. They're eating the wrong foods. It's just not living a healthy lifestyle. They're not moving their body. They're not exercising. So if you utilize it to kickstart your weight loss journey, but you start making those lifestyle adjustments, then you're not going to be on this medication as a crutch long term. You could get off of it after 2 to 3 months, and then just focus on living a healthier life.
Yeah. Which goes back to the first three things you said: move your body, be mindful of your nutrition, and get a good night's sleep.
Right.
Good. That's the yeah. I love that. In your line of business, what's coming down the pike, so to speak, that you may have read about or heard about or know about, that again the listeners and me as a layperson wouldn't know, but you're kind of excited about. There's and I think you have a proprietary thing you even talked about too. If you can share what that does, at least, not any trade secrets, but what that does, that'd be cool.
Well, I think the biggest thing right now is with what you see happening here in the United States in the health sector with RFK Jr. Being placed in that leading role with HHS. So what you're going to see now is you're going to see a huge shift of what's happening with the big food companies, and overall, you know, the medical health. So you're going to start seeing more of these different testing modalities to see exactly what's happening internally in your body. And some of these testing modalities that, some clinics are already offering, we offer it, is toxins, right? Doing certain testing to see what type of toxins are in your body. So, I have a group of doctors, very, very well educated, knowledgeable doctors, very well respected, world renowned, that the first thing they'll tell you is that the root cause of disease formation is toxins.
Mm, mm,
That's crazy, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
toxins. And what happens is, and they have the data to support it, what ends up happening is that these toxins will go into your body. And what they do is they attach themselves as a DNA adduct to certain genes inside of your body, which when it does that, it causes what's called a gene expression change. So it changes the expression of that gene. And I'll give you an example of what a gene expression is. So all of us as humans, we have tumor suppressing genes. So those genes should always be turned on, right? So if a tumor starts to develop, the tumor suppressing gene suppresses that tumor from developing into like a cancer. So What happens is if a toxin gets attached to that gene, it'll actually turn off the gene expression where now the tumor suppressing gene is off. And what happens at that point? Disease develops, cancer develops, and now people have to go through the radiation and the chemotherapy, and you potentially can die. So this happens with all kinds of other diseases. We're seeing this with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all kinds of autoimmune issues, that the actual root cause is a gene expression change, which what ends up happening is your mitochondrial health gets affected throughout this process, right? Where it's causing a lot of oxidative stress. We've heard about inflammation, right?
Mhm.
Aging is what they call it now. It's where you have so much inflammation that's making you age quicker. So you're going to hear a lot about this, and you're already starting to hear about the toxic foods. But what is happening to people because of all these toxins in the foods, all these toxins in the crops that are out there, the pesticides and everything else, and what's in our environment? This is where the science is going to really, really show exactly what's happening. The next few years, at least the next 4 years, while we have the administration that we currently have now, you're going to start seeing a lot of the science pop out where people are going to they're going to show you, hey, these diseases are being developed because of these toxins.
I think when people realize what is actually in their food and what they're eating, what they're drinking, it's going to scare the hell out of them.
Oh,
And I don't think that RFK is going to hold back. He is going to, you're drinking plastic. Just so you know, you're swallowing plastic right now. Yeah.